Contract Officer Jellic of the Confederacy Veterans Administration stood inside the massive, transparent steel structure covering half of one of the many asteroids orbiting the Confederacy Administration System's central star. He peered through his spacesuit visor at the construction quality of the immense dome stretching end to end on one side of a 10-kilometer circumference rocky disk floating in the void. The other side of the asteroid served as landing pads for visitors and maintenance. The dome, currently facing the void side of the atmosphere, showed stars visibly twinkling above. Jellic sighed as he looked on into the twinkling black. Nodding, he gave his final approval. "Let's get this rock pressurized." A worker attending a control box inserted a cable into a control port. Shortly after, overhead lights turned on, illuminating the vast empty space. Without an atmosphere to scatter light, the dome had an eerie interplay of daylight contrasted against the starry black sky. He felt the gravity kick in to a comfortable low level suitable for the lowest gravity species in the Confederacy. The lights revealed a pit 3 meters deep stretching from wall to wall. The only raised space was the entryway platform where the control box was located. A single set of stairs led down deep into the pit. The opening was currently depressing. It fit the tone of what the dome was meant to be. It was one of many orbital graveyards for fallen soldiers of the Golsak Confederacy War. Due to the volume of casualties, planet-sized space wouldn't be able to accommodate them all, necessitating asteroid facilities. The tremendous cost of building the domes left little for interior design. Contractors would arrive, fill in the pit with soil, and pour pathways to lay out gravesites. Jellic wanted to reach up and pinch the bridge of his nose, but his suit was impeding his fingers. Between the morbid job and the stretched labor pool, Jellic was struggling to maintain his sanity. "Sir?" a voice said over the comms. It was from one of his junior contract negotiators on the team. "How does it look?" Jellic looked at his wrist-mounted sensor screen. It was showing the barest presence of gases in the air. It would take 3 weeks to properly fill and pressurize the cavernous dome. "We'll have to see if the air holds. All the non-destructive testing showed things were good. Then we can start filling in the landscaping. Who won the contract for this dome?" Jellic was overworked and couldn't memorize all the various contractors, hired for the dozen domes he was personally overseeing. "Clay Richards Landscaping from somewhere called Bentonville, Arkansas," the negotiator replied. "Where is that?" Jellic asked, not familiar with the name. "Earth," the negotiator replied. "It's a human business." Jellic hummed to himself. They were certainly an interesting species. He didn't have much experience with them since they've only been around for a century, though they did make a big splash in the war when they actually turned power armor from a science fiction story into a reality. He also heard they were quite strong and had excellent endurance. Filling in roughly 38 cubic kilometers of soil and laying Juricrete Pass would be something they'd be able to do. "Set up a meeting with the contractor, if you will," Jellic announced. He knew he already signed the contract on the work performed by the negotiators. It was all above board and the plans were relatively simple. Still, he wanted to occasionally personally meet a company representative now and then. "It will be tough to fit in, sir," the negotiator said as he tapped on his wrist computer. "We still have the evaluation of the visitor facilities on the other side, and the preliminary plans for the next cemetery are expected in the next day or two. After that..." "Just squeeze something in." Jellic cut the negotiator off, annoyed at being reminded of his growing pile of work. "See if they'll be willing to come out when we have our final atmospheric integrity sign-off in 3 weeks." "I think we can pull that off," the negotiator replied, as he tapped on his communicator. The meeting notification pinged on Jellic's moments later. The following 3 weeks was simultaneously the fastest and longest period of Jellic's life. His shuttle became his home as he zipped from asteroid to asteroid to oversee different construction sites. In the transit, he spent it going through tremendous volumes of paperwork and coordinating his small army of negotiators as they worked the finer details of the projects. Then the time to go to his meeting with the representative from Clay Richards Landscaping came. Jellic mulled cancelling it entirely. The meeting was something he proposed at the spur of the moment, and he was drowning in work. However, he convinced himself it was necessary, since a contract officer skipping out on a meeting would make the Veterans Administration look uncoordinated and, frankly, rude. The visitors' docking complex was still under construction when Jellic arrived. He landed in one of the completed bays and stepped out into the artificial atmosphere within. Unlike the cemetery itself, the budget had been able to fund a rail line from the various landing bays to the entrance. Visitors would have to bring their own conveyance once inside the main dome. Jellic had to wave away a small contingent of foremen who greeted him at the main visitor hall just outside the cemetery dome. Apparently no one informed them of his visit, and they were worried about an unannounced inspection. He made a note to send someone for an inspection later, considering how quickly the foremen swarmed. Entering the dome, Jellic looked over the depression in the featureless ground. Just below, down the stairs, a single person stood. He was a human with a blue shirt with a collar around his neckline. He wore a pair of blue pants and brown work boots. Atop his head was a red covering of some sort. He was dressed as if he was prepared to perform manual labor. Jellic's hackles raised in annoyance. He arrived at the meeting and all he saw was a single work hand down in the depression. Jellic walked down the stairs and spoke. "Hello, is your manager here?" The man turned and Jellic saw the rest of him. His shirt had a logo in a human language he couldn't read, and his red hat had a strange tusked running animal stitched on it. "G'day, name's Clay. I'm the owner of Clay Richards Landscaping." Jellic's annoyance drained away when he heard Clay's introduction. "Jellic, contract officer with the Veterans Administration. I'm surprised the owner came all the way out here. I thought you'd have sent a manager." "Where I'm from, the owner gets down and dirty with the boys," Clay replied and put his hand out. Jellic, confused by the strange human gesture, mirrored it. Clay grabbed his hand and gave it a single pump. "Are you prepared to begin the project?" Jellic asked, as he pulled his hand back. Clay looked around the space. "Seems easy enough. A near-perfect circle with a uniform depth of 3 meters to fill in with soil. Then we apply the planned walkways and ground cover." "Well, that's about it," Jellic replied. "Do you have any questions or concerns?" "Honestly, a few." Clay removed his head covering, drew a hand for his brown hair and returned it. "I'm not used to project details being so vague. Apart from specifying Juracrete walkways, the job is mainly left up to whatever we deem fit." "Right," Jellic said. "With the amount of construction going on, we can't be overly specific about what kinds of grass is used. Contractors can use what they believe are appropriate plants for ground cover. I take it you have a suitable option from your world?" "Sure do," Clay said. "I believe you'll be happy with the selection." "Good," Jellic stated. He was hoping the man would bring along something other species liked. Being a deaf world, Jellic was concerned they'd bring something crazy like blood-sucking grasses. However, the Veterans Administration decided to leave the selection up to the devices of the contractor. They'd have to trust Clay's discretion. "Anything you want to know?" Clay asked. "I don't know much about this Arkansas place," Jellic said. "Anything interesting about it?" Clay hummed. "Frankly, we tend to get a bum rap. I suggest you not look us up on the network since people tend to speak ill about us because of stuff that happened a few hundred years ago. Otherwise, apart from natural stuff, I'd say we have a thing for poetry and literature. Quite a few authors and poets are from around our parts." The poetry tickled Jellic's interest. "Oh, that's interesting. I find it hard to imagine any place with a poetry tradition can be considered negatively." "You'd be surprised. All stereotypes die hard." "Are there any poets you suggest?" Clay looked up into the void above through the clear dome for a moment. "I'll send you a selection of works from Maya Angelou and Miller Williams. They're a good place to start before jumping off to the others." "I'd appreciate it," Jellic said. The two spoke a few minutes longer before Jellic bid Clay farewell. It didn't do much good to delay the job much further. A year went by, and Jellic mostly forgot about the, in the grand scheme of things, minor job. He had many other cemetery structures to oversee, and many of them had stressful delays and problems. The bodies of the fallen soldiers couldn't sit in freezers forever, and needed their final resting place. The completion of smaller jobs would be managed by junior negotiators. Then a message crossed his desk. It was the completion notification from Clay Richards Landscaping requesting final inspection and payment. Jellick's hackles rose when he checked the date. A job like that should have only taken 2 months. The human outfit had taken an entire year to notify the Veterans Administration of work completion. How could they screw up filling in dirt, throwing seed and paving a few paths this badly? Jellick sent out a notification to the company to meet him in person for the final inspection. He would have words with the group and inform them there would be no extra payment. It was a fixed contract and overruns due to time were non-negotiable. Jellick fumed the entire way to the site. He arrived at the asteroid from the landing pad side. He was relieved the asteroid wasn't facing the other way, otherwise he might have been surprised by a disaster visible on the approach. The anger continued as he entered the rail line which whisked him to the cemetery entrance. Luckily, the facility hadn't been open to the public yet, and was empty. The upside was everything was clean and operating smoothly. Then he exited to the entrance hall and saw Clay, along with 5 other humans, in the same uniform waiting. "Hey, Jellick," Clay started to speak. "I'm in no mood," Jellick snarled. "What have you 4 humans been doing? This was, at most, a 2-month job." "Ah," Clay started again. Jellick cut him off. "I don't want to hear excuses. If this is some attempt at a scam, check your contract. This is a fixed-price job. There won't be reimbursements for overages." "But..." Clay tried to speak a 3rd time. "Silence!" Jellick barked. "I'm going in to see what mess you made of the place. Heaven help you if we have to fix something because it's coming out of your contract." Jellick stormed past the confused humans as he made his way to the door leading into the cemetery. His anger was boiling as he waited for the final door to slide open. Then his anger vanished like a thin wisp of smoke in a storm. Inside was the most beautiful thing Jellick had ever seen. Kilometers upon kilometers of rich green ground covering stretched over the edge of the asteroid's curvature. Walkways aligned with an explosion of purple, red, and yellow flowers. Additional flowers marked out each grave plot as far as the eye could see. Buzzing in the air were countless automated gardening drones, which flitted across the landscape, tending into the greenery. Jellick knelt and got a closer look at the ground covering just off the side of the walkway. There, small plants with 3 leaves hugged the ground. The deep green leaves had tinges of purple at their ends, leaving a rich hue which calmed his mood. The surprises kept coming. The walkways, designed to install transit rails when budgets became available, had a rail line already installed to move people deeper into the cemetery complex. Instead of a basic poor path, the walkways were etched to resemble paving stones. The biggest surprise came in the form of a giant marble obelisk that greeted visitors in the large plaza just inside the entrance. The tall, white and grey stone pillar sported a bronze bowl at the top from which a flame licked the air. At its base was a bronze plaque with words etched into the surface. "Miss Jellick, I'm sorry about all this," Jellick heard Clay saying from behind. Jellick turned and saw Clay and the other humans with a look of shame on each of their faces. "What is all this?" Jellick said, as his mouth hung open in wonder. "We thought we'd surprise you with this. We figured because the job didn't have a specified completion date, we could do a bit extra. The plans were so dull and we thought it would be insulting to lay the fallen in such disrespectful conditions. So we went a bit overboard," Clay said with an apologetic tone. "Give us some time and we'll get rid of all this and put it the way you want it." "No," Jellick hurriedly said. "No, this is incredible. I don't want you to change a thing. Unfortunately, we can't pay you for any of this. We don't have the budget." "Oh," Clay said, relief in his voice. "In that case, don't worry about it. The bill's already been covered." "What?" Jellick yelped. "By who? You can't possibly be this wealthy." "You see," Clay started, "one of my employees is the son of a prominent local family doing a summer job while in high school. He called back home and told them about how basic this cemetery was, so they decided to donate the money for us to liven the place up." Jellick looked around once more. He heard the chirping of some sort of animal on the air from speakers installed in the pathway, and felt a gentle breeze moving across his skin. "Who is this so I can contact them for thanks? We could put their name on the entryway." Clay shook his head. They wanted anonymous. Jellic blinked. Anonymous? This job must have run over 100 million credits. Who lays out that much just to remain anonymous? Clay laughed. I wouldn't worry about it. They're practically swimming in money from a business their ancestors started. In fact, they even offered to cover more. Said it would be disrespectful if they stuck their name all over a place meant to honor the fallen. Jellic didn't know how to respond to it. Instead, he slowly walked toward the obelisk with the flame atop it. Jellic pointed up. Why the fire? An eternal flame, Clay explained. It's an old Earth tradition. The fire remains lit as remembrance. Jellic watched the fire dance within the bowl and felt the symbolism. It was an apt gesture. He then turned his eyes down to the words on the bronze plaque. Here we stand on this verdant green, to remember those who fell. With somber hearts we give our thanks for all those who sacrificed. Rest while here neath the vivid bloom, for our future is secure. We raise our voice to heavens high, in thanks for our wondrous gift. We stand here with cherished life's spark, which ye weary hands did save. Rest well now, ye honorable souls, in eternal memory. Forever on this verdant green, we remember those who fell. Jellic's eyes passed over the words multiple times as he worked the tempo in his mind. Is this a poem? Who wrote it? Clay's eyes turned down sheepishly. I did. I figured I'd write a few words about how I felt. Why did you not write your name on the plaque? Jellic asked. Clay coughed. The same reason the family wanted to remain anonymous. I didn't feel it right to promote my name here. Besides, I'm not confident it's any good. Jellic read the plaque once more and turned to look out to the horizon. Greens, purples, reds, and yellows spread out against the backdrop of black space and sparkling stars. The space would give comfort to those who lost loved ones in the war, and a wonderful place to remember their lives. You said this family would help with more of these. How many are they willing to fund? Jellic asked. Clay smiled and looked out over the fields. All of them.